just don't see it for him. I just don't see it. Like, boxing on Instagram probably be cool, but not an actual fighter.
You say that it got personal because of something Barrios' trainer said. Well, what did he say and why did it bother him?
He said, his trainer said something about what's my name, the white. When I heard that, it was like, and it made me like think like, I gotta beat this guy. I got to. That's not for me, just for like where I come from, like, you know, just.
No announcements, no press tour, just a grainy off-center clip that hit the internet like a punch no one saw coming. 30 seconds of Manny Pacquiao hitting mitts in a quiet gym. No sponsors on the wall, no hashtags, no entourage. Just the sound of leather meeting leather and that lightning-fast cadence boxing fans know by heart. It felt unplanned, almost like someone had accidentally uploaded greatness. But within the hour, everyone was watching. Not just boxing heads, not just old school fans. NBA players reposted it, gaming streamers commented on it. Even people who hadn't said the word Pacquiao in 10 years suddenly remembered why the name once shook Vegas. Because this didn't look like a retired fighter staying fit. This looked like a warrior getting ready. Every combo cracked with intent, no wasted motion, no fatigue. He glided into pivots like he never left the ring. The footwork? Still nasty. The timing? Still disrespectful. You didn't need slow-mo to see it. Pacquiao wasn't reminiscing. He was warning. And that's when the shift happened. One by one, the comments rolled in from fighters, pundits, old trainers. But one name was on everyone's mind, Gervonta Tank Davis. And while he didn't hit like, didn't comment, didn't drop a quote or a story, his response still came through, just not how people expected. No words, no emojis, just presence, still, focused, calculated. Because when Tank watches and stays silent, it's not indifference. It's a signal.
I just know how to mind my business. I be having my own stuff going on, so I can't comment on somebody else's stuff, you know. A lot of people, nobody not perfect, but people play to be perfect on the internet. Everybody had their own problem, so.
A signal that he saw everything and made a decision not to clap back, but to let that silence carry weight. That was the warning. In boxing, when something big happens, fighters talk, especially the ones at the top. A viral knockout, a new call-out, a comeback rumor, somebody always chirps. But when Manny Pacquiao's training video went global, Gervonta Davis stayed completely silent. No Instagram story, no tweet, no comment under a repost, just nothing. And for someone as online as Tank, that was weird. This is a guy who regularly posts his sparring highlights, who claps back at fighters within minutes, who's known for speaking his mind, unfiltered across platforms. He's not shy about letting the world know when he thinks something's mid, or when someone's not worth his time.
I don't think he's awkward. I just think that he's a fighter that's just started fighting. That's, you know how when somebody first come in the gym and when somebody first come in the gym and they've been coming for like a little minute, so they think they nice now. They ain't get all.
But this time, radio silence. It's not that he didn't see it. Everyone saw it. The video was everywhere. Boxing news channels, ESPN Reels, TikTok edits, even casual fan pages that don't usually post anything from the boxing world. The footage reached corners of the internet Pacquiao hadn't touched in years. Tank's camp had to have seen it. His fans were tagging him in the replies. Podcasts started asking, what does Gervonta think about this? Twitter threads speculated about a dream matchup, and yet, no response, no quote, not even a subtle emoji drop. That kind of silence doesn't happen by accident. Not with someone as reactive as Davis.
Like, right even there. In the fight, I knew that I had him. You know?
I mean, everybody knew.
No, but people didn't know, like, he actually can hit, like, when his punches was, like hard.
You felt it?
Yes.
Was he the strongest punch you think you ever felt?
Facts.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's where the noise started to build. Not from what Tank said, but from what he didn't. Because in the fight game, saying nothing isn't neutral. It's loaded. Especially when your silence shows up louder than your punchlines. People started asking, is it respect? Is it strategy? Is he plotting? Is he just watching? What made it even more curious was that Gervonta has spoken on Manny before. In multiple interviews over the years, Davis has name-dropped Pacquiao as a fighter he grew up watching. Someone he respected, someone who helped inspire his style. Even when Manny was fighting Thurman, Davis posted about it. When people joked about a Mayweather-Pacquiao rematch, Tank joined the fun online. So the fact that this time, when Manny looked the sharpest he has in years, Tank went completely quiet, that spoke volumes. This wasn't the silence of someone who didn't care. This was the silence of someone watching, closely, carefully. And when a power puncher known for his knockout confidence decides not to puff his chest or talk his talk, people notice. Because that's not fear, that's calculation. In a sport where hype often moves faster than fists, Gervonta Davis's lack of reaction did more than any quote ever could. It left space for tension, for possibility, and for everyone else to fill in the blanks. At first glance, it looked like a nod to a legend, a respectful pause for an all-time great. But the deeper you looked into Tank's silence, the more it felt like something else, something more layered. Because this wasn't just about Manny Pacquiao, this was about everyone watching him. Pacquiao wasn't shadowboxing for nostalgia. That clip hit with the precision of a signal, one that echoed across weight classes. And Gervonta Davis? He understood exactly who the message was really for. Not him. Not just him. It was for the whole division. Barrios, Haney, Teo, Shakur. Every fighter in and around that 135 to 140 pound lane had their timeline lit up with Pacquiao's return to motion.
You said this is your favorite one?
Yeah, this is my favorite type of workout. Part of training.
Why is that?
Fundamental.
And when Tank didn't speak up, it sent its own message. Y'all better take that seriously. Because silence in boxing isn't just absence, it's dominance. When you're at the top of the food chain and you choose not to react, it puts pressure on everyone else to interpret your silence. And most of them interpreted it as this: Davis isn't dismissing Pacquiao, he's observing him. And if Tank's watching, maybe they should too.
Bro, it's deserved. We talking about greatness, but at the same time though, when you think about it, Tank don't give a fuck. Cause he said it many times, he don't care.
That's the thing with elite fighters. They don't waste attention. If Davis is clocking Pacquiao, it's not out of curiosity. It's out of respect or recognition. Because whether Manny's planning one last dance or just reminding the world what greatness used to look like,
different, you know, when you say, Kyle, when you say push them buttons, I'm gonna push every button that he got on his ass.
his movements still shift energy in the room. And Davis didn't deny that. He validated it with his silence. There's a certain hierarchy in boxing. The young lions bark loud. The top dogs don't need to. They just watch, move accordingly, and wait for everyone else to play catch-up. And that's exactly what this looked like. Some thought Davis was scared. Others thought he was bored. But most knew what it really was: awareness. Because when a legend like Pacquiao shows he's still dangerous, even at 45, you don't laugh. You don't taunt. You study. You prepare. And if you're smart, you remember what a focused Manny Pacquiao has done to younger fighters who thought he was finished. In fight culture, especially online, people confuse respect with softness. If you don't clown someone, you're scared. If you don't react, you're ducking. But real fighters, especially the ones who've been hit hard, identify each other. It's quiet, calculated, and it always means one thing: this guy still matters. Tank Davis doesn't hand out that kind of attention for free. He's clowned opponents. He's laughed in interviews. He's mocked sparring clips. When someone isn't on his level, he lets them know, loudly. But when it came to Manny Pacquiao, nothing, no meme, No diss, just a blank space where a reaction usually lives.
Why is that fight against Tank Davis so important to you?
Because that's gonna give me the respect I deserve, and I'm never afraid. I'm trying to tell you that I have a spirit of competition in me, and you're gonna see that come out when I fight Tank and whoop his ass.
And that's what made it hit harder than a viral post ever could. Because Davis's silence didn't come off like a duck. It came off like a nod, a professional acknowledgement, the way a lion looks at another lion in passing, not attacking, just recognizing the threat. It's the oldest code in combat sports. You don't taunt the ones who earned their scars, you study them. This wasn't about fear. Let's kill that theory right now. Tank isn't afraid of anyone. He's fought bigger guys, power punchers, slick technicians. He's walked through pressure and handed it back in 3-punch combos. But fear and respect aren't the same thing. Fear runs away. Respect slows down, pauses, listens. And when Pacquiao's gloves hit those pads, you could feel the air shift. Even Tank felt it. Because here's what people forget. Davis is a student of the game. He didn't just show up one day swinging. He watched Floyd. He watched Manny. He studied timing, rhythm, and the art of control. So when a legend steps back in the frame and doesn't look washed, doesn't look tired, but looks sharp, that's not something you ignore. That's something you process. And maybe, just maybe, it's also something you warn others about by saying nothing at all. Most fighters would have brushed it off. They'd say Manny's too old, too light, too far gone from the spotlight. They'd write him off like he's just chasing attention or trying to stay relevant. But Gervonta Davis didn't do any of that. And that's exactly why his silence mattered. Because Davis, whether people want to admit it or not, isn't just a knockout machine. He's a strategist. He knows how to bait. He knows when to step in and when to step back. And most importantly, he knows how to read. Read pressure, read angles, read legacy.
Here and there for Barrios. You can't just throw it straight all the time. Oh.
Double jab followed by the left.
But,
oh my! Right off! Tank Davis brought his power to one.
Pacquiao, to the untrained eye, might look like an aging legend putting on a show. But to someone like Davis, that pad work, that footwork, that explosiveness, it wasn't theatrical. It was calculated. Manny's not a TikTok boxer. He's not throwing combos for likes. He was sending a coded message. And it was sharp enough to cut through the noise. Because even at 45, Pacquiao isn't fighting for popularity. He's fighting with memory, muscle memory, killer memory, the kind you don't lose. The kind that only people like Tank understand. Tank saw it. That's the part most people missed. He saw what Thurman missed, what Mathesy missed, what Broner missed. That Pacquiao doesn't need youth to be dangerous. He just needs timing. And if you think he lost that just because he hasn't been active, you've never faced someone who's mastered delay. Because legends don't slow down the way you expect. They sharpen in silence. And Tank? He knows a sharpened blade when he sees one. That's why there was no laugh, no brush off, no "he's done" tweet, because Tank's not just protecting his image, he's protecting the truth he saw in that clip. This wasn't just Manny training, it was Manny preparing. Let's be honest, Pacquiao's not calling out Gervonta Davis. He hasn't named him, hasn't teased a comeback fight, hasn't done a single interview saying, "I want Tank." That's why this hit so differently. Because it didn't feel like bait for one man. It felt like a warning shot for everybody. Think about it. When that clip dropped, the headlines weren't about Tank. They were about power, about speed, about the fact that Pacquiao still looks like he could walk into the ring and humble someone in 3 rounds. And that silence from Davis? It didn't say, "I'm interested." It said, "Y'all better be careful."
If you watch my documentary that came out on HBO called The Golden Boy, it explains to you what I was thinking, what I was feeling. I literally wanted to die in that ring. In the 8th round, everybody was going to stop it, okay? Or the 7th round.
Because that's the real play here. Pacquiao didn't need to say names. He didn't need to build hype. All he had to do was exist in motion, in speed, in control, and that was enough to reset the mood of an entire division. Not because he's gunning for a title, but because he's still capable of making people nervous, especially the ones who've gotten a little too comfortable. Because Manny's not some celebrity boxer who gets winded after 2 rounds. He's not doing this for vanity. He's doing it like he always has, to remind people that legends don't age the way you expect. They fade slow, they punch sharp. And when they come back, they don't come to play, they come to make statements.
Pacquiao again, the aggressor. Advantage early over the first couple of rounds. Good right hand. That's come on. Caught Pacquiao on the right.
So when Gervonta Davis stayed quiet, it wasn't a dodge. It was a recognition of something every young fighter needs to understand. When legends move in silence, they're not asking for a fight. They're testing who's dumb enough to give them one. And maybe Tank saw that before anyone else did. Here's the thing people forget. Greatness doesn't disappear, it evolves. When you fought for decades across 8 weight divisions against every style imaginable, you don't lose your edge just because the cameras go away. You sharpen it in quieter ways. And that's what makes Manny Pacquiao so dangerous. You're not looking at a fighter who's chasing clout. You're looking at someone who's lived through eras, who's fought brawlers, technicians, counterpunchers, volume machines, defensive gods. He's seen everything and survived it.
To surprise me with what he brings to the table. It's always a little better than I thought.
Now ask yourself this, what happens when a fighter with that kind of experience decides to get sharp again? Not for a payday, not for nostalgia, but just to prove that he can? That's not retirement energy. That's hunter energy. And Pacquiao never really stopped being a hunter. He just paused the chase. The pad work shows it. His legs still move with purpose. His hands still snap like they're made of springs. He's not gasping for air between rounds. He's building rhythm. And that rhythm, that's the scariest part. Because rhythm doesn't age. Once it's drilled into you deep enough, it's instinct. You can't shake it off, even if you tried. And Davis saw it. He didn't need to comment to get the message, because fighters at the top don't just watch form, they watch timing. They study snap. They clock precision. Tank's built entire game plans around rhythm breaks. That's how he wins. So when he sees someone like Manny punching with that level of coordination, even now, you know what it means. It means Pacquiao isn't just holding on to glory, he's rehearsing it. And while the internet debated whether he was serious, Tank sat back and did the smartest thing a fighter can do. He paid attention. Because when legends resurface, they don't always knock. Sometimes they just start training and wait to see who panics first. Let's be real. There's a high chance this fight never happens. Pacquiao versus Gervonta Davis? It's a fantasy matchup, 2 timelines that were never supposed to cross. One man representing old school war, the other, new age firepower, different eras, different engines. But here's the part that matters. It doesn't need to happen for it to leave a mark, because boxing isn't just about who steps in the ring, it's about who shapes the temperature outside of it. And that 30-second clip, it changed the temperature. Suddenly, young fighters were second-guessing their position. Trainers were reassessing styles. Analysts started using words like explosiveness and precision again, and not for the 20-somethings, but for Manny.
When he knocked down Thurman in that fight, I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This guy's 40 years old and still can crack and still as fast as lightning.
Yeah, he's a legend of the sport.
He is a legend, and he's such an unusual guy. You know.
And then you've got Tank, sitting quietly in the corner of it all, watching, listening, not chasing clout, not playing the algorithm, just locked in. Because whether he admits it or not, he knows the game's narrative shifted for a moment away from him. And that kind of shift matters, especially when you're the face of a division. It's almost poetic. The idea that a retired icon could post one clip and subtly remind the sport, I'm still part of the conversation. I still move the needle. I still live rent-free in the minds of the best. Even if he never fights again, Pacquiao's shadow still fights for him. And honestly, maybe Tank needed that. Maybe all of boxing did, Because sometimes the fight we don't get is the one that sharpens everyone else. And that, more than any punch or promo, is what made Pacquiao's clip feel like a warning. Not because a fight is coming, but because it could have. And the thought of that alone was enough to make the whole sport sit up straighter. In boxing, the loudest moments don't always come with a bell. Sometimes it's a silent clip, a quiet reaction, and a storm of questions left hanging in the air. Manny Pacquiao didn't call anyone out, Gervonta Davis didn't say a word, but the space between those two silences, it said everything. One legend reminding the world he still exists. One champion showing the wisdom to take that seriously. No trash talk, no clickbait, just legacy, recognizing legacy. And whether that fight happens or not, you felt it. We all did. The tension, the electricity, the unspoken respect between two fighters who understand what real danger looks like. Because when power meets precision, even in the shadows, the game changes. Subscribe to Knockout for more moments just like this, where the story behind the silence hits harder than the punch. Drop a comment. Would you still want to see Pacquiao fight again? And if he did, who would dare step in? This is Knockout, where legends never fade quietly.